all of you have given a sort of a spectrum of the impact of the hard right, from growing electoral participation to, I even heard the way that the hard right is sort of rooting in municipalities. We have seen in the United States an impact on our school board elections, although not the impact I think they intended. But they are certainly trying. We are seeing some persistence in voting, and Raymond, you are offering like the end of that spectrum, where when the hard right is allowed to operate with impunity, they will vigorously attack trade unions and the democracy we represent, and the solidarity we represent. I heard you mention international solidarity being very important. Before we open it up to conversations from our delegation, I would love to hear a little bit more about the role solidarity in the trade union movement is playing, whether it is within your country or it is examples of international solidarity that exist. Micah, do you
Yes,
want
of
to
course.
start?
Yes. So, countering the narrative and actions of the far right is a very relevant topic for us in the GIW, as I explained. The democratic future and the protection of marginalized groups are at stake, and thus broader alliance with civil society and strategic partnerships with parents and migrants organizations are necessary to strengthen trust in the resilience of democratic institutions. So what we do, we strongly encourage our members to stand up for democracy, fight back against the attacks to undermine quality public education and our professional ethics. We are also trying to empower our members politically and pedagogically, despite the huge staff shortage and backlash. So we make our teachers strong and brave to thematize the racist opinions of the AfD. The teachers don't have to be neutral, that's what the AfD said. They have to stand for democracy. And in Germany, the large demonstration a few months ago, I think you heard about it, in small and big cities throughout the country against racist and anti-democratic aspirations were encouraging and supported by the unions. This year, around 50 organizations, including GIW and DGB, have founded a broad civil society alliance to defend democracy. Together with the German Trade Union Confederation, DGB, and civil society organizations, we demand pro-democratic and human rights-oriented policies. Democratic governments need to take decisive action more urgently than ever before, and above all, invest in education, provide clear support for democracy projects, and support civil society and those affected by right-wing, racist, and anti-Semitic violence and discrimination, both finally and structurally. As GIW, we also advocate for the subject of political and civic education to be strengthened at school, which is often under-resourced but is all the more important today. Internationally, we need to increase in our cooperations and to build strong union networks internationally to fight back against the far rights. We currently have a bilateral union exchange program with the NASUFT from UK, where we bring teachers together from particularly affected areas in Germany and the UK to discuss about the effects on education institutions and local strategies to respond to the far right attacks. And what we heard from the first meeting they had was really strengthened for them who take part in this meeting. And just a little aspect, in Germany there is an institute, union-based, and they said that the unionist votes the AfD just a little bit more than the normal people. So that's really a problem in the unions. And in our union is a big debate, not only in our, it's a big debate to get members who were active for the AfD out of the union. So it's really we have the first case in Thuringia. There's one member of our union is getting elected for the AfD and making official politics for the AfD, and so we have to we try to get her out of our union. So that's increasingly debate in our country and in our unions, not only in ours, but in the others too.
And the AfD is the Alternative for Germany.
Yes,
Is that
the
the
AfD is
translation?
yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Our far right party.
Right. Manuela?
Yeah, well, once again, I don't have much to say on this topic because
Yeah.
we are still on a first stage.
Yes.
Anyway, Michael was saying that there was a discussion at the unions what to do with members that are candidates. When the far right party first entered the parliament in the first election, we had a very strong discussion within the unions to how do we deal with this new situation, because until then we had at institutional level contacts with all political parties in parliament, regardless of being right-wing or left-wing. So.
Yeah.
And the discussion was what is the best strategy, to ignore them, to try to come to discuss with them our points of view. And our decision at the union was that we should not have any institutional contact with this political party. So we don't send them documents, we don't ask for meetings, because we considered that if we did, we would be normalizing a party that claims to be anti-system. So they assume they are anti-system. And they also accuse the unions of being part of the system. And we say, yes, we are part of the system. We are part of the democratic system. And the issue is that they aren't. So we have no contact with them so far. We know that they are Mike said we should not underestimate their ability to coordinate their actions. There are, although our far-right party is more recent, as I said, they have already organized in Portugal big gatherings of all the leaders of the right-wing European parties, so they are really working together. And we know that the far right is a global threat to democracy and a particular threat to trade unions. So trade unions are also a threat to them. So they have responded to our position, saying that they will create their own confederation of unions. So saying that they also want to have a union in the education sector, in the health sector. They have tried to influence the police officers unions. So they have been, but the leadership didn't respond to that. But very recently, they called for the police forces to come and demonstrate in front of the parliament because they were discussing a project of law to increase their salaries. So, and some members are responding positively. The leadership of the unions aren't. So they say that their perspective is to create their own unions and confederations. So far, they haven't had space for that. So we don't feel that impact or that pressure. Also in the demonstrations, we see that there are sympathizers of the far-right party that appear. Sometimes they try to cause some trouble, not as serious or even violently as in other countries, we have seen that they go to the demonstrations just to cause problems and violence. So far, this is our situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, what we do, we try to not to, in all opportunities we have, we address the issue with our members, even when we have press conferences. We try to call the attention of the danger that the right-wing party represents. As I said, we have a relatively young democracy, 50 years, and so we want to believe that the democratic values are more present than in other countries, but we understand that this is a process that we really have to fight hard so that it doesn't come to exactly the same stage as it is in other countries.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Manuela. Raymond, other examples of that international solidarity or even domestic solidarity to strengthen your response to this right-wing
Well,
movement?
answer it very directly.
Mhm.
Without the international solidarity, I could be dead by now. It was international solidarity who saved a lot of activists, a lot of trade unions in the country for speaking up for us, for sending letters to embassies, sending letters to international organizations, to human rights organizations, to ILO. Locally,
Right.
Locally, it is the first time, it is very historic that all trade union movements in the Philippines came together. And we call our group as All Filipinas Trade Union. So all
Okay.
colors were together because all of us were targeted. So we stand as one right now, and we work with the global union federations, with the GUF, to come up with the common strategies, both locally and abroad, on how the attacks on the trade unions will be stopped in the country. And seeing that, even the American Federation of Labor recognized our efforts last year when we received the Kirkland Award last year
Yes.
in Washington, in recognition of this historic unity of trade union movements in the Philippines, saying one slogan with one call, saying calling for the end of rights violations in the country, calling for the end of this so-called attack against unions, calling for the abolition of this task force created to vilify people. No? And because of this solidarity, both locally and abroad, last May, the Supreme Court of the Philippines was forced to issue a ruling that red tagging is against the law. So this is historical in our
Yes.
context, because for the longest time the state would say, "Oh, red tagging is not illegal. There is no law about that." No? So it was only last May when the Supreme Court was forced to finally spoke. And as we gather here right now, the Commission on Human Rights in the country is conducting campaign to educate people that red tagging or labeling people as this, as that, is illegal and therefore should be stopped. So that is product of the solidarity. And abroad also, there's the challenge right now, because our new president is trying to paint a color that is different from his father, and that he is different from Rodrigo Duterte, and that he is pro-labor, and the Philippine government is now working towards buying different seats in the United Nations, in the International Labor Organization. So the international arena is very important for us to say that, hey, Mr. Marcos, your people is saying this. So how true are these things? So you can help us engage our president and be reminded that people in the Philippines, trade unions in the Philippines, are still dying.
That's really helpful. And as we turn to our delegation to have a conversation, I just want to remark the similarities in your responses, right? It is very natural for trade unions, knowing what solidarity means to them within their union, to then expand solidarity and build a larger base. So Micah, just hearing that your partnerships with parents and with migrants were one of the first sort of impulses you had, your instinct was to create a larger solidarity network with the other, with other groups impacted
Mhm.
in the same way, or in a mirror image. And I think I think that's remarkable. I think a lot of our delegation will sort of understand that instinct for wanting to go to parents and migrants. And Manuela, this idea of creating a civil society alliance that also says that we are all in this together. And the way to maintain a strong democracy is to absolutely reject the frame that the hard right is trying to sort of attach you with by saying, like, oh, you're part of a system, and you responding, yes, we're part of a democratic system, we're part of a democracy, and just inspiring people to be with you, as opposed to that frame of fear, I think is also remarkable. And Raymond, the idea that you have persisted to such a point, the international work you've done to kind of keep a light shining on the sort of the impact the hard right has had on the trade union movement, decade after decade, to the point where your Supreme Court had to, had to issue that ruling to make red tagging illegal, is a sign of some hard-fought progress in the solidarity that you have continued to maintain under incredible pressure and danger. So all of you have just remarkable stories to tell, incredible lessons for each of us. And